in the end of this parak of the Tanya. So, ach bira inyan. Now the Rebbe is going to start to explain what's going on here. You notice it says bir ha'inyan. Everything is about the inyan. Vos meint. How can we now get clarity on answering all the questions? Who's the Beinani? Is there free will? Is it nature? Is it nurture? How do we understand what our inner Jewish self-talk should be? What is the way that humanity should see themselves? So that's what we're dealing with now. And remember we said we're going to have to explain the superstructure of the universe and what all the spiritual worlds look like, how creation works. So he's going to begin that now. That's what he means. Ach bir ha'inyan. Al pi ma shekos Reb Chaim Vital Zal b'shar ha'kedusha, like he mentions in his famous Sefer Shar HaKedusha, be'etz Chaim Shar Nun Perek Beis, like it says in the Arizal in Eitz Chaim. So this all is being built on Kabbalah. Everything he's about to tell us. Chabad in general is known to be much more, from all the Hasidus, is much more heavy in Kabbalah. Meaning, said differently, all of Hasidic thought is based in Kabbalah. It's all based on Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, based in the Zohar. But certain Hasiduses use more of a Kabbalistic language, i.e. more of a Lurianic language, whereas other Hasiduses didn't really use such language of Kabbalah, but they used, of course, authentic to the concepts of Kabbalah, but they used other Lashonuses. They used a language more of relationships, which Chabad also uses, but Chabad kind of keeps the veil off more by using very clear Kabbalistic language, like you'll see going through the Sefer. So it says, D'lekol ish Yisrael echad tzaddik echad rasha. Every single Yidla, echad tzaddik echad rasha, whether he's a tzaddik or a rasha, yesh shtei neshamas. He has two neshamas. How do we know that? A pasuk in Iyov, D'chsiv v'neshamas ani asisi. I made souls. The pasuk is speaking about one person and said, I made souls in that person. Shehein shtei nefashos. Two souls. Rav Y.Y. Jacobson did a famous Tanya series, which was probably the most famous Tanya series ever to be recorded some time ago, like decades ago, I think. I believe he called the series, if I'm not mistaken, The Tale of Two Souls. The entire of the Tanya is really the tale of two souls. Now, why is that the most important paradigm that you need to know as an Eved Hashem? I'll say it very quickly. Because if I live with a paradigm that I have one soul, and sometimes that soul gets me to do good things, and sometimes that soul gets me to do not so good things, so what does that say about my identity? What it says about my identity is that I'm not intrinsically good. Rather, I have good parts of me, and I have good inclinations, but also who I am is sometimes actually pretty damaged. Who I am as my identity. And that is treif. When you live with a two-soul system, which he's going to explain right now, yes, I have an animal soul. That animal soul, which he's going to describe now, the nefesh habahamis, and it's selfish, and it gets impatient, and it gets angry, and it's lustful, and it does things that are below the dignity of a human being. When it does those things, that's not me. Listen carefully. The deepest me. That's that I was just coerced. I was cajoled. I was convinced by this animal soul to do something. But who am I? The godly soul. And the godly soul remains intact. It's not the godly soul had a bad inclination. It's the two totally separate souls, the animal soul, and they have the same profile. Except that on the side of the animal soul, it's always pulling me towards selfish things. And on the side of the godly soul, it's always pulling me towards deep meaning, deeply integrated, compassion, meaningful, loving relationships, God-centered living. Whereas the animal soul is pulling me towards self-centered living. That's a very mind-blowing paradigm that changes everything. Because now even if a person falls, should he be like, oh, I'm a nobody, I'm horrible, I'm a sinner? No, you're not. You're a godly soul. You were just pulled, you listened to the bad friend. You listened to him, you're pulled in that direction. But you're still good and pristine. It's like the diamond got put in a bunch of dirt. And now it looks sloppy and disgusting. But the diamond is a diamond. The dirt is the dirt. It didn't change the diamond. Yeah.
Isn't that a dangerous game? Because then you do something wrong, you go somewhere you shouldn't go, do something, you say, no, that was just that was just my bad side, but really it's not me. And then you just do it again, it's not you. Well,
So the problem is that Hashem says that you can't do Averis. You can't listen to this guy. You can't listen to this guy, and moreover, your soul only gets built up stronger and stronger by not listening to him. By not listening to him, having him there trying to convince you, and not listening to him, doing the opposite of what he's saying, that makes the soul shine brighter, because now the soul's light in the face of darkness is a much bigger light. It's much stronger, it's much more brilliant. So a person can never say, oh yeah, the Yetzer Hara made me do it. But after the fact, he can say, instead of getting down in the dumps, that's why Chassidus is such a chizuk for people, is that he knows I'm good. The biggest thing you're going to notice about the Tanya, and the biggest maybe difference between Chassidic thought and generally the classic Musar approach, was what Musar approach wants to identify all the things you're not doing well with a finely razor sharpened scalpel and start to dissect all the problems that you're going through and then fix them. And Hasidic thought obviously agrees you need to fix all those things, but it says, why don't we focus on how great you are first? The light of how great you are will shine forth, and all the lower things that you're doing and all the selfish things are going to start falling away naturally. That's the main, let's say, different focus of it. And in our generation, the Baal Shem Tov knew this, it would be very hard for us if we just focused on all the things we're not doing well. It'd be very hard to spend so much time speaking about how we're failing in this area, in this area, in this area. Of course we need to fix those things. So what's the main thrust? The main thrust of Hasidic thought is let's focus on how big you are. That's why the whole second chapter is going to focus on what is this soul, this godly soul. He spends a lot of time talking about your godly soul. You start getting very feeling, whoa, pumped up when you learn Tanya. And then Averis and listening to the animal soul become lowly. I don't want to do that. That's not me. It's foreign. Okay? Dichsiv neshamas ani asisi shem shtei nefashot nefesh achas mitzad klipa. The sitra acha. One of your souls is coming from the klipa and sitra acha. Klipa means the shell, sitra acha means the other side. Either you're for Hashem or you're on the other side. Yeah, there's two options. There's no on the fence. That's what it means. Either something is for Hashem or it's the other side. The other side. Which is a bit intense, but it's very empowering. Why is it so empowering? Because now, when I eat my kugel, I know I'm speaking about kugel, now when I eat my kugel for Hashem, it becomes a mitzvah. When I go on a walk on the beach with my wife and just enjoy a nice conversation with Hashem, that becomes a mitzvah gedolah. You can turn all mundane acts, not just when I'm putting on tefillah, not just when I'm learning Torah, any act of this world, which you're going to learn this language called klipas noga, any act of this world is going to become a mitzvah gedolah. Okay, you understand that? How you can have for Hashem schnitzel lunch. For Hashem. Which means the corollary is also true. If by the schnitzel, I kind of leave Hashem out, and I eat the schnitzel from my animal soul's consciousness, like, yeah, hit the trough, get it in, insert here, so that, and I just, even though I made a bracha, but I was just, spacing out and just focusing on just keeping this beast of burden, fueled up. So then it's not just parav, it's the other side, okay? So one of the souls is coming from the other side. That's the animal soul. The animal soul is trying to bring you away from God and makes your life all about just you as a selfish person. And for most of the world, they're not evil, even though we're going to see that evil means not for God. You don't have to be like this person in a cave plotting to take over the world, God forbid, to be evil. Evil in our language is not that. Evil just means non-God focused. So let's, instead of translating Ra as evil, we're going to translate Ra as not for God consciousness. And therefore, when we talk to a person on the street of Tokyo, when you interview him, so what are you about to do today, my friend? Because I want to have food for my family, I want to take care of my family. That's all. I want to take care of my family, I want to have God consciousness in the world. So then you say, you are bringing God into the world. But if a person says, I'm going to work because that's what you got to do in this world, that's called Ra. Ra comes from the world, right? What is the shofar sound that goes called Cheruah, right? Cheruah. What's the root of it? Ra. Okay? Ra. That evil sound. No, Cheruah just means broken up. As opposed to Tekiah, is constant. God totally present. Whereas Trua is broken up. Fragmented. God is not here. He's not everywhere. I don't include him in everything. It's broken up. It's fragmented. That's Trua. That's Ra. That's called Ra. God is absent. So the person that says, I'm going to work, I'm to pay my taxes, and I'm a good guy, right? He says, that's Ra. I'm sorry to say that's Ra, because you're not bringing God consciousness into the world. You're not actively bringing God's kingdom into the world. But a person who goes for a walk on the beach, and he's thinking about Hashem, and he's having in mind that he's building the shalom bayis with his wife, so they can build a beautiful home for Hashem, that Hashem's light could come into the world. So that is building all of the world. That's the mitzvah gedolah mamish. So you could take klipas noga, mundane things, and turn them into the greatest mitzvahs. You go for a steak and wine, at your Rebbe's house on a Tuesday night, with all the fixings. My wife likes making the fried onion things. That's my favorite thing. It might even be better than the steaks. On the fried onion, the crispy ones, and they come out good. And you're doing it. It's not Shabbos. You just sit together and you're saying Torah, and you're doing this to have camaraderie together, to mamish bonding together with Hashem. Like what do we say? Hini matov manayim, sheves achim, gam yacham. So how wonderful is it when brothers sit together? Gam yacham. Why does it say also one? It says as one. It's so nice when we all sit together as one. No, it means when we sit together in a nice way, mamish, like in a good way, gam yachad, Hashem also comes. The yachad, the one and the only one comes. And that's when it's good. When we gam yachad, we brought Hashem into the chill. We brought Hashem into the steak and fried onion party. Then it's mamish. Mitzvah gedolah mamish. Mitzvah gedolah. That's why the Chassidim were never afraid of this world. We never said be careful of the world out there. Be careful. We are careful. But we see this world as an opportunity to bring Hashem into this world. That's what it's all about, okay? But if you don't, it's risky. Sitra achravet klippa. Okay, so just get that clear. Vihi, and this animal soul. Here we go. Fasten your tzitzis. We're going into the world of the animal soul a little bit, yeah? Jacob, fasten them. V'hi mislabeshes bedama adam. Your animal soul is found, it's dressed up in your blood. Okay? That is a very important Hasidic word, mislabeshes. Something is dressed, is cloaked. It means that there's some similarity between the two. Because just like you can see the form of the person inside the clothing, it has to fit, the glove has to fit. The animal soul, which is the lowest part of your spiritual self, fits into the highest and most spiritual part of your physical self. Why is that? Why is the blood the highest part of your physical self? Because where do you want to find all the information about a person? In their DNA. You take that by getting a blood sample. You know how complex blood is? You know how complex DNA is? You take blood from a person, you can know so much information. The information found in a person's blood is basically like almost spiritual. It's so vast. How much DNA? How long would it take to unwind the DNA? How far would that go? I think I've heard different studies that it could go all the way to the sun and back. Just the amount of how tightly it's wound, the helix is wound up. That's spiritual content. Okay? So in the highest physical part, the lowest of the spiritual parts can be mislabish. If you look inside your dam, if you take a magnifying glass, an electron microscope, you're not going to see, there's the animal soul, I see him in there. No, that's where he resides spiritually, okay? So every word here we could spend months on. But for the sake of moving, we got to move and then you have to talk about it afterwards. This idea of mislabish, hislabshus, that it says your soul is mislabish in your body, like we're talking about right now. Or that Hashem is mislabish in this world. Okay, the world is like the clothing of God. Also interesting because the animal soul is the soul that animates your body. That's the way I like to define the animal soul. It's the animating life force of your body. That's why it's so concerned with I'm hungry, yeah, gains. I just want to pump, yeah, yeah. And it's a good thing. You want to be pumped up and revved up. So the blood is a big part. That's why the guy's his blood is pumping. The animal soul is revved up a lot, right? Okay. It's a pasuk. The nefesh is the basar is in the dam. And if you're wondering where do all your bad character traits come from, midas rois, evil character traits, which we said, the character traits that do what? Conceal God, like being impatient. Impatience is such a classic example of just not believing in God's plan for humanity. You think you just getting really you're in line. The guy to pay for your shopping. The guy, you're pushing the guy up. You think it's going to make the line go 1 minute faster. It's just going to annoy everybody, and you just become all worked up. Thank you. I was looking for that. Worked up. What are you? And you're claiming that somehow God didn't know what He was doing, and it's His fault, and I should have. That's what it's midas rise. Impatience is such a bad midah. Just relax. And do something productive with your time while you're waiting in line. So all of the, let's call them bad character traits, come from your nefesh bahamis. We're going to have to talk about this next time. Your nefesh bahamis is built out of 4 yesoiduses, okay? Some of you have heard this before. 4 yesoiduses mean your nefesh bahamis is in your blood. It animates you. It has a psychological aspect also, and it has an emotive aspect, and it has just this physical aspect of just making you emotionally and physically. It pumps you up. It gives you physical life. And it has 4 different conscious elements inside of it that are the source of all the bad character traits. I'll just give you one. So the 4 bad character traits are, the 4 elements are fire, earth, wind, and water. Doesn't mean that if you take a magnifying glass, you're going to see like a fire burning in there. It means the spiritual idea of a fire. So, for example, anger comes from which of the four? From fire. From fire. A guy who his fire of the animal soul is out of whack will cause him to be an angry person. So he has to learn how to tame that fire. It will also cause him to be haughty, because fire jumps up and makes itself look like it's very, very chashuv. Now, just for sake of seeing the corollary, your godly soul also has fire. We're not talking about the godly soul yet, we'll get to that in the second chapter. Your godly soul also has fire. What would be the good expression of fire? Passion. You're passionate for davening. You're on fire for Torah. You're on fire with your relationships. When you're talking to your kid, you're excited about it. You're not checking the buzzes in your pocket. You're like, Jude, tell me about the day. Was tut sich? Let's go. You want to play catch? Daddy, let's go. Okay, let's go. Yeah. You're into life. You're passionate. It's taking those fires and using them in a healthy way. Okay? B'ezrat Hashem, we should use the fires of the godly soul. Amen. To be continued.